Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. It's Kero here, coming from the front seat of the car in remote Port Hedland in Western Australia. So I'm the coordinator of Membership Voice. Don't usually do this from the car, but hey, on the job at the moment. I'm delighted to welcome everyone to our first co-hosted event between Membership Voice and a district, in this case 9705, and I'm delighted to have Mary Brell with me. I'd like to, before I hand over to Mary, to acknowledge the Kariara people as the traditional custodians of the land on which Membership Voice is co-hosting this afternoon's webinar. That's a nation up in the north of Western Australia. I acknowledge and respect the contribution made by elders past, present and emerging of that wonderful nation of people, and wish them all the very best, along with the other First Nations in this area. On that note, I'm delighted to introduce Mary Brell, the co-membership chair from Rotary District 9705, who will be hosting this afternoon's webinar. Over to you, Mary.
Thanks, Kero. And hello, everyone. How exciting to see so many people here. Isn't it fantastic that we can have people all around Australia, even in a car in Port Hedland? How amazing that is. I think that's just brilliant. And one of the things I'd like you all to do, because I know you're not all from 9705, could you just put a message in there quickly so we can all see where you're from? So before I go on any further, I would also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I am and which this webinar is coming from, and that's the Wiradjuri people. I would like to pay my respect to elders past, present and the future, and extend our respect to all the First Nations people on whose lands this entire webinar is being broadcast. So thank you. So once again, welcome to you all. It's pretty exciting that we've got you all here this afternoon. The purpose of today's webinar is a bit of a first, and I'm pretty excited that we've got a connection between Membership Voice, and Kero, of course, works from Western Australia, and District 9705. And we have Leo Farrelly, our District Governor, here. So thanks for coming on board, Leo, because I know that you're really in favour of what we're doing this afternoon. This began as an idea that we had in the Rotary Club of Orange Daybreak, because we've been looking at and starting some new look clubs because we're really concerned about the numbers that we have of Rotary and the way numbers are going, and that we realise that we probably need to look at things differently. So I got together a few key people in my club, and it's great to see them here today: Rob Campbell, Michael Milston, Graeme Fleming, and they're here today, and we started this conversation. I then went to Kero and to a few other people and said, well, why don't we make this available for everybody in 9705, not just the Rotary Club of Orange Daybreak? So that's where the idea emerged from. Kero, thankfully, I know what he's been doing over many, many years, and he's been interviewing so many people. He's got so many great ideas. But what I'd like to introduce to you this afternoon the other people who are going to be on this program. We've got past District Governor Adrian Roach, and he's the Zone 8 Rotary Coordinator. I've asked Adrian to begin the talk this afternoon to give us some big picture ideas. The second speaker we'll have this afternoon will be Barbara Mifsud. Now, Barbara is the RI, Regional Membership Officer. She's got some statistics that she's going to share with us. I've also got Kero. I'm going to interview Kero for a change. Normally, Kero interviews everybody around the world, but I'm going to be interviewing Kero for a change this afternoon. And our fourth speaker is past District Governor Brian Coffey. Now, Brian is going to introduce us to something really quite interesting. We're going to be looking at some data. How do we use data to actually look at what's going on in our communities? It's going to be very interesting the way Brian does this. And our final speaker will be Graeme Fleming from the Rotary Club of Orange Daybreak. And Graeme is one of the people on my team. And so Graeme is sort of going to bring this to a close and start to look at, well, what are we trying to do in Orange? And others of you might feel exactly the same. So we just want to share this with all of you. So it's pretty exciting, really. And then at the very end, well, I'll be looking at, well, where do we go from here? We've got all these fantastic ideas. What are we now going to do? So I'm going to pass it over to Adrian Roach. Adrian, I've known him for a while through various committees I've been on with Adrian. He's got some fabulous ideas, and because he's the Zone 8 Rotary Coordinator, he's very much got the big picture, which is really what I've asked him to start with. So, Adrian, can I open it up to you to start this fantastic afternoon and webinar for us? Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you very much for that very warm introduction. Yes, it's been a pleasure knowing you too. Look, thank you for the opportunity to participate in today's webinar. Members represent our beating heart, the core of who we are, and most importantly, what we do. Today, I'm going to share 5 strategies for membership success, best practices from our clubs. We need to put our members at the centre and clubs do this by being member-centric. Clubs do this by spending more time with prospective members, strong indication, orientation, induction, mentoring programs which enable the member to understand the broader range of Rotary opportunities, being transparent with decision-making, using technology to leverage communication, and regular member surveys, good systems to prevent and manage conflict between members. Now, praise the Lord, it's working.
Yay.
So it's now time. And you can all read that, so I'm not going to read it to you, but yes, it's time to make our clubs fit our members. Clubs do this by skills audit to understand the breadth of skills in the club, always ensuring a good balance between local and international service, conducting community needs assessments to really understand where Rotary can make an impact, partnering with other organisations to scale up projects and increase impact. Be flexible, enabling members to contribute in ways that are purposeful. What do volunteers want? More flexibility, meaningful volunteer roles. Raising awareness of the importance of diversity, equity and inclusion. Supporting members with training to enhance understanding of diversity, equity and inclusion. Developing DEI plans, including goals with KPIs. Adapting and modifying club operations to ensure they are accessible for all. Implementing strategies to enhance inclusiveness. Understanding which communities are underrepresented and partnering with those communities. Increasing diversity equals better solutions. Exciting to see a range of new style clubs that are being developed. We're going to hear about those later on from some other speakers, but for example, we've got the Passport Club down in Melbourne, alumni clubs, the Rotary Club of Social Impact Network, cause-based clubs ending human trafficking, global nurses and midwives, just to name a few. The importance of nurturing and supporting new clubs while it's not curtailing their difference. What will new clubs do for Rotary? Each one bring one. Now, you've all heard President Shekar's audacious goal, asking each member to bring in a new member to Rotary. I've asked and I've brought one new member in this year. Have you done that yet? I bet if you haven't done it yet, you've probably got a few lined up. So what will you do to grow Rotary? Be member-centric, meaningful service, diversity, new style clubs, and of course, asking, the most important thing. In the end, growing Rotary is about enabling Rotary to deliver even more positive impact. It's about making sure that Rotary thrives well into the future so that future generations, our children and grandchildren, and children of the world may also experience firsthand the benefits of Rotary. Thanks for everything you're doing, and I look forward to seeing Rotary grow, especially in Orange. Thanks, Mary. Back to you.
Thanks, Adrian. I asked Adrian just to give us the big picture and the purpose of what we're trying to set out to do in this webinar this afternoon and as we move forward. So Adrian's given us some really key ideas to think about. And so keeping those key ideas in mind as we move forward. Thanks, Adrian. The second guest this afternoon is Barbara Mifsud. Now, I've known Barbara for a little while now because I've been working in that membership space. Barbara is always interesting to me because she presents the real story of what's going on in the various districts. And I was in a webinar earlier on this afternoon with Barbara, and she had some very interesting facts and figures. So I thought that it was pretty important for before we moved on anywhere in thinking about new style clubs or new clubs, should we really be doing that? So I asked Barbara if she could show us some facts and figures. What's the real story, Barbara? So could you share that with us this afternoon?
Thanks very much, Mary. Lovely to be here, District 9705. So as we know, growing Rotary is, something that we all want to do, and developing new clubs is really an essential part about that. So we know that membership growth is the intersection of three elements, which is really attracting and welcoming new members into our existing clubs, engaging and retaining these members, but also chartering new clubs as well. So today, what I was going to have a look at in the short time that we've got together is really, as Mary said, having a look at some of the new club development statistics, both worldwide and closer to home in our district and also in our zone. But also having a look at, the different club types and models and formats. And also looking at some key considerations when we're starting a club, including what are some of the success factors. So before we do that, I was just thinking about, very broadly about, why should we start new clubs? And I know we're going to be talking about this anyways throughout the whole session, but essentially starting new clubs supports the RI strategic initiative of expanding our reach. So starting new clubs, as Adrian said, won't weaken our existing clubs. Rather, it's about ensuring sustainability of Rotary by increasing the number as well as the diversity of people who join our organisation. And we've also seen this emergence of a whole range of new club models and formats. And, this is really a way for us to enhance participant engagement because we're building new clubs around our members rather than the other way around. And it's really evidence, I think, of Rotary's ability to respond and to adapt. So let's just have a look at some of the stats. Just moving on. If we do look at the stats show us that we can't achieve membership growth without new club development. What this chart shows, and I'm sorry it's a little bit busy there, is that the regions that are reporting the largest net change in clubs over the last 5 years are also the regions that are reporting the strongest membership growth. And conversely, the regions reporting the greatest net loss in clubs, and you can see that in red on the right side of that table, are also the regions that are experiencing the most significant membership losses. So India, Central and Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, they're leaders in membership growth, but they're also leaders in new club development. But on the other hand, the US, Great Britain and Ireland, and also our region, we've reported the greatest membership losses, but we've also have the greatest net loss in clubs. We have also performed some analysis of the composition of new clubs, and we found that between 80 and 80% of charter members of new clubs are first-time Rotarians. So we really can be confident that starting new clubs is expanding our reach and welcoming new participants into Rotary. So in the zone, we do charter new clubs. It's just that we don't charter enough to replace the ones that we lose. So we chartered 42 new clubs in this 5-year space, but we lost 112. So that leaves us with a net loss of 70. And in your district, you can see you've chartered 1 club, but lost 6. So that's a net loss of 5. And what's really interesting, I think, is that the zone stats actually mirror the worldwide stats, in that the only district that has had net membership gain in that time was the only district that had a net increase of clubs, which is District 9640 in the Gold Coast. and they had a net increase of 9 clubs. In fact, 9705 had not chartered a club in over 12 years. But that's up until the recent charter of the Rotary Club of Canberra Sundowners. And I think that's such a great news story because it had been a satellite club for a number of years, and it eventually chartered in its own right. And, you know, so in those ways, satellite clubs can work in terms of for new club development. So that really leads us into a discussion about club types and formats and models. And I thought it was important to, you know, sort of go through this as well. So Rotary clubs share similar values and have a passion for service, but each of them offers a unique experience. So when we're starting a new club, you're going to have to look at, you know, choosing a club type, a meeting format, and also a club model. And you're going to look at the needs of your community and the club's prospective members to decide, you know, what kind of club would be best. Firstly, you need to determine whether or not you're going to charter a Rotary club, a Rotaract, or a satellite club. So these are club types. So if you're going to charter a Rotary club, you need 20 members minimum. However, you know, what many people don't realise is that you can still start off your club as a provisional club. So it's a bit old school, provided you've got the blessing of the district. So you can operate as, you know, kind of a semi-Rotary club until that time that you've got 20 members to charter. And new Rotary clubs can either have a sponsor club or not. It's not mandatory. Even though there's no longer an upper age limit, Rotaract clubs is really aimed for younger professionals aged 18 and above. And 12 members are recommended for officially recognising a Rotary club, but that's not mandatory. And then we have satellite clubs, which is a section of a Rotary or a Rotaract club that has its own meetings, its projects, bylaws, and it's run in collaboration with a sponsor club. And it's usually developed with the intention to, you know, to charter in its own right. But some clubs are happy to coexist with their sponsor just as they are. And really the satellite club should be offering a club experience or culture that's different to the sponsor club. And you'll need a minimum of 8 members for a Rotary satellite club. But for a Rotaract satellite club, and that's a bit of a new concept, there is no minimum for that. Then you should determine whether the club meets in person, online, or a combination of both. So that's the format. And that could be, you know, you could alternate the meeting format, or you could, the club could choose a hybrid format as well. And then finally, you're going to determine the approach or the elements your club will want to offer. So that's the model. So you can choose any of these common or these emerging club models, or you can design one of your own. So RI also has a handout about club types and formats and models to help you as well. And so I just thought I'd quickly go through some of the key considerations when you're developing a new club. And these are really 9 steps that are outlined in the RI guide to starting a new club. Firstly, you're going to need to research your opportunities. And this is something that Brian Coffey is going to talk about shortly, you know, whether or not that be a geographic area or a particular segment of the community that you're going to target. You need to get organised and talk to your experts at the beginning. So talk to your district, talk to your AG, as well as the RI staff, and, you know, lean on your zone experts like Brian and also Adrian. It really is a good idea to start talking to the RI staff early on to discuss things like the name, because we want to make sure from the very beginning that it's compliant. You're going to then develop a communications plan, and you're going to hold information meetings so people know, you know, this is what Rotary is about, the benefits of joining. Then you're going to go and do hard yards, which is working on recruiting those 20 members. And then you're also going to hold organisational meetings, and that's really to determine the club culture and the model, and elect your club officers and adopt the standard Rotary Club constitution, as well as the bylaws as well. So when you're ready, then you're going to submit the club application and the charter member list and the charter fees to RI. And then it really is time to celebrate, to organise that charter night. But not forgetting that an important part of new club development happens after the charter night. So, you know, you've got to continue to nurture the club as well. So what are some of the key success factors? You know, what is it going to take it to, you know, make it or break it? So many successful clubs have a new club champion. So someone who's got that vision and the drive and bring it to fruition. It doesn't have to be a Rotarian. It can be a passionate person out in the community. You also need to get key stakeholder support, including like district and also buy-in from nearby clubs as well. Having a compelling story. So a new club that's got a really strong value proposition is in a better position to attract and retain its members. Also important are strong foundations in reno policy. It doesn't mean, you know, that the way you don't have to, you know, the way that we've always been doing it. It just means that you need to ensure that you've got a solid basis to work on. Also, we find, you know, clubs that have a willingness to listen to members and also to try new things. They're the more successful ones. So that as Rotary experience is on the same wavelength with what you want to achieve, and that's usually elected by district to assist the club in the first 3 years of existence, and that's actually mandatory as well. And lastly, persistence. As we know, there can be some real ups and downs when chartering a club, so persistence is really one of those key factors. So just remember that there are a whole range of resources that are available from RI, as well as, you know, local resources such as Rotary on the Move, Rotary Down Under, Kero's wonderful webinar series, Membership Voice, and also your district and zone leaders are here to help, as well as the RI office in Sydney. So hopefully today I've given you a bit of an insight into some new club development stats and club types and formats and models, and also provided you with some key considerations when starting a new club. These are my contact details, and I'd love to chat to you about new club development and hear your success stories and also your challenges as well. So thank you so much, Mary. I'm handing back to you.
Thanks, Barbara. Barbara's always fabulous in terms of what she can give us, and she's really segued beautifully into Adrian, what Adrian was giving us. Barbara's given us a bit more information. She gave us some very interesting statistics for us to have a look at. And I think we really need to think about what she's given us, because we can't make decisions unless we've got the facts and figures to make those decisions on. So I think, thank you, Barbara, you've done that for us. The other thing Barbara also indicated for us was, and which is what I'm trying to do this afternoon, I'm trying to introduce District 9705 people to some of the key resources personnel that we have. We've got Adrian. He's the coordinator of Zone 8. I mean, and he's got a wealth of knowledge. He's been around a long time. He knows what's going on right across the zone. We've also got Barbara. She's the RI membership person, and she's here in Australia. And she's also a fountain of knowledge and a wealth of knowledge, what she has got. And also Brian Coffey is coming on shortly. Now, Brian's got incredible knowledge and information that we can use. And I know we can constantly go to those people. So I want you to see those people, see who they are this afternoon, so you know you can go to them. Barbara, you've given us a great segue into the next section. And this is Kero O'Shea. Now, Kero's sitting in his car, as you can see, in Port Hedland, in sweltering heat, while I'm in orange with a jumper on. So isn't that amazing? Here we are in this country. I'm going to introduce Kero as someone who has got this amazing brain. He's got this incredible thinking brain. He's out there with great ideas, and I love his ideas. He thinks differently, he sees the world differently, and he sees Rotary as this wonderful organisation that we can grow and develop and get excited by. But he's got a lot of his ideas from speaking with so many people, haven't you, Kero?
I have.
Normally, Kero he interviews these people all around the world. And I've sat in on many of Kero's interviews. But we're going to swap the role this afternoon, Kero. I'm going to interview you. So
I'm looking forward to it, Mary.
I know, that's going to be different for you. Now, let's just start. Some of the things that Barbara mentioned to us, she talked about these different types of clubs that are around. She gave us a number of the ideas. Now, I noticed that my really good friend Hank has asked, what is a passport club? Barbara's talked about cause-based clubs and satellite clubs. Now, you've spoken to many, many people about these types of clubs, Kero. So can you give us some examples, some real-life stories of people in clubs that are like this? What have you seen?
Well, there are two really good examples of passport clubs up in Queensland. One we already have on Membership Voice is the Sunshine Coast Passport Club, which has developed this innovative relationship with the Alexandra Head Rotary Club, where the two clubs have formed a partnership, and the Sunshine Coast Passport Club provides the passport opportunity, which is a more action-focused form of Rotary, less meeting-centric, a great opportunity for people who want to get out and do things and perhaps meet less and do stuff more often. And of course, more recently, and we'll be releasing this recording soon, we had the Gold Coast Passport Rotary Club, which is one of Andy Rajapaksa's new style Rotary clubs that he started in District 9640. I think Gold Coast Passport started a couple of years ago from memory. And they're very good models because they are slightly different and they are action-based. But I wonder, Mary, whether we could perhaps just step back a bit and just talk briefly about Membership Voice, because Membership Voice is a webinar service and it does do live webinars, but those webinars serve the purpose of creating recordings which go into our library. We've now got something like 85 recordings of, and Membership Voice is described as an evidence-based best practice Rotary library. And just by way of explanation, on average, the clubs that we featured in the Membership Voice library would typically have things like 20 to 50% growth, as opposed to the decline that we see in some more traditional clubs. And they're there as examples of actual examples of models that others can follow. And there are real live people like Les Walsh, people like Candice Olivia at the Gold Coast Passport Rotary. You know, every club, like Mike Patton down in Tasmania, the Lindisfarne model. The Lindisfarne model is a classic case. It's one that pretty much any suburban Rotary club in Western Australia, in Australia, not Western Australia, could aspire to copying, because what they did was they started with an average, and I forgive me for saying that, Mike, an average slowly declining Rotary club, and they turned it right around. They've got a young satellite attached to it. The whole place is booming. Their core club is growing. It's collaborating. The members are working with the younger members in the satellite club, and it is a fantastic model, and it's one that any Rotary club in Australia could emulate. Sorry if I
No. Yeah. And Kero, it's not only in Australia you're talking to these people. I've been in interviews with you. You've got people from all around the world you're talking to. So it's these models that you're hearing, and you're getting these real stories from people all around the world.
Yep. We had a classic a couple of weeks ago. We had a story from Kingston in Canada, and the great thing about that was you had Kingston's a city, 6 Rotary clubs, I think it is, and they were all battling a bit, slow declines and whatever. The Kingston Rotary Club started a renovation progress. It renovated itself, but instead of just focusing on itself, it worked with the whole cluster. And every club in the cluster grew last year. And the president of the Kingston Rotary Club is now the assistant governor, and all those clubs are on fire. They've got a joint membership committee for the assistant governor group, and they work together. A new member comes in. They pick the best club in the cluster to recommend to that person. Obviously, the person it's the person's choice what they join, but the whole cluster is working together to try and find the best Rotary experience for new members. Yeah, it's a wonderful model.
Yeah, and that's what I love about what Membership Voice does. It's not just in Australia. You're getting people from everywhere. There's a couple of others I want to get you to talk about. Now, we've heard about Andrew Rajapaksa on the Gold Coast. Now, in District 9640, Barbara mentioned.
Yes.
How many? He's chartered 5 clubs and
5 and 2 satellites.
Exactly.
So it's basically 7 new clubs
in the last 12 months. I mean,
yep.
What is the key to his success? What's he doing? And he's got some examples of cause-based clubs. I mean, a lot of people are talking about these cause-based clubs. What do we mean there? Who have you heard? There's a couple of questions in there, Kero.
A cause-based club that I'm planning to do a membership voice webinar on is the Koala Lovers Club. I mean, we all love koalas, and they suffered with these terrible fires that we had up and down the East Coast. And so Andy went out and reached out to a young fellow who worked with koalas, talked to him about what Rotary could do, and lo and behold, we now have a Rotary E-Club. I think it's an E-Club model. An E-Club is a format of a club. It's no longer regarded as a type of club. It's a format of meeting. So I think the Koala Lovers Club, and I am planning to find out more about it, is an E-Club but its cause is koalas and improving their lot in Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's many examples of these cause-based clubs, aren't there? Yep. I know I've got there's quite a few of them around, but a lot of people they start these cause-based clubs around a social justice or an environment. Yep. That seems to be the main area that people are looking at.
Well, here's the thing, though. We're one of the things that I feel very strongly about is, and in fact, Andy started those 7 new clubs, but by virtue of the pride and the positivity that Andy demonstrated as leader in the district, his traditional clubs also grew by 60. Now, so there's a knock-on effect. When you have this positivity and this sense of we can do it, wonderful things happen. And I mean, this leadership thing is really important. We've got down in the dumps a bit, and if we tell people, oh, I don't know about that, if we walk around with our chins on the ground, guess what? That's what's going to catch on. But Andy doesn't do that. Andy leads from the front. Look at what he did in Evans Head. He came into the community and he talked to a community that didn't have a Rotary club about what a good Rotary club could do for a community. And he got the community involved in helping him set up the Rotary club. And bingo, it flew. So what we've got to do, we tend to look a lot at the supply side, like members and this sort of thing. We've got to look more. One of the things that's come out of all of these success stories is we've got to look at the demand side. Like Ballina on Richmond renovated themselves, added 37 members by going to their community and finding out that domestic violence was a big issue. It was a red ticket issue in the community. So they didn't just throw money at it. Rotary doing things for causes isn't just fundraising. It's about getting out there and associating us and our clubs with the cause. That's the key thing. And that's what ignites the passion in the community. And like I look at Rotary clubs, and when I was membership chair in District 9465, I looked at clubs, and broadly, a third were going well and growing, about a third were going sideways, and a third were going backwards. And all of the clubs that we cover in Membership Voice, they're all A class. They're all in that first category, what I call the A class clubs. And they do things like, and one of the first things that you do when you're renovating your club is you connect with your existing members and you take them with you. Like the Rotary Adelaide model, another outstanding one. Rotary Adelaide was dying in a ditch, big club, but it was in trouble. They went to work on that. They established this concept of strategic continuity. If you want to be president of Adelaide, you've got to be prepared to work with this strategic direction. You've got to be prepared to take the members with you. And by doing all of those things and renovating the club and throwing out some antiquated processes and the like, they have a club where young members are not only joining, but it's become an aspirational club, and those young members are inviting their friends to take an interest in joining Adelaide. Now, that is gold. That's absolute gold, because that's what you want, an attractive Rotary club. And all of these clubs on Membership Voice are attractive clubs. But the thing is, it needs leadership. It really does need leadership. Someone's got Someone's got to get out there and say, we need to make a change. Sorry, Mary, if that was a long-winded answer.
Isn't Kero's enthusiasm infectious? He could talk all day. I mean, I know what he's like. And because he's met so many of these clubs and he's got so many examples. But you can all go onto the membership voice site, and I'll get you to put that up, Kero. Are you able to do that so people know how to find you? But I think we can walk away from Kero's talk, and the 3 words that come up to me, Kero, are connect with community.
Yes.
Are we really connected to our communities? And I know Ballina and Richmond did that with the domestic violence. They connected with community, with domestic violence, and the community knew that's what that Rotary Club's about.
Can I just say something about this issue of domestic violence? I've heard people talk about it as though, and sort of make it out as though domestic violence is a partisan political issue, so Rotary shouldn't get involved with it. That is a load of rot. It's a controversial issue because, you know, people are dying and suffering. But the fact is that Rotary clubs that get involved in this are going to save people's lives, and they're going to be relevant. We need to be relevant. If we're not, our clubs have no future.
And that's connect with community. Thanks, Kero.
Yes.
Thank you. Connect with community, really important message. Now, connecting with the community, we need to find out what the community is all about. Yep. So consequently, that's why we've got Brian Coffey. Now, Brian is a past district governor, and he is connected with a number of districts, and is an assistant governor within the zone, and he's in charge of a number of districts. Now, Brian is on. Brian, can you tell us who you are and what are you going to be showing us this afternoon? I know there's some very interesting information.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. Yeah, I'm Brian Coffey. I'm a past district governor, as you said, from District 9670, looking after 3 areas now with membership as the Assistant Rotary Coordinator. My background is 32 years as a police officer, and in that we use statistics a lot, particularly demographics, to determine where we located police and how we attacked crime. It may not have worked, but anyway, that's what we've done. So that's what I'm going to speak to you now about using demographics in Rotary.
Fascinating. Can you let us know? What have you discovered?
Okay. But my opening slide has come up, one would assume?
Yes, it has.
Okay. You might look at that and think I'm going to talk to you about 50 Shades of Grey with sex, money and age being up there, age variations, but it's not. It's about demographics. And understanding demographics is very important for planning in your Rotary Club, because it's based on trends, not on past history. And the demographics, they affect the demand for everything. Planning for changes offers clubs the opportunity to be in the right place at the right time to be more successful. And Adrian spoke on that earlier when I wrote some notes here, put members at the centre, provide meaningful service, be flexible, diversity, representative of a community, and developing new clubs. So he's already spoken on that sort of thing, and that all evolves around demographics. And demographic trends are some of the easiest to predict. We can predict population size, growth or drop-offs. Generally, it's growing. The average age, but it's generally increasing. But you watch new groups come through, and the sizes of those age groups, and that also relates to what resources you need to supply those people. We can look at the average income, the size of income groups, the ethnicity of an area, the religion. And it's these that can help you to plan to be in the right market at the right time with the right product for the people in order to succeed. Is that going on to the next slide? No, it hasn't. Where am I here? Just not seeing why it's not going on to my next slide.
Go up to next, Bill.
That's it there. Yep. Okay, now this is a map of District 9705 showing where all your clubs are, and the different colours all mean something as to where the meetings are being held in the morning, noon, evening or other. 83% of District 9705's clubs are held in the evening. And the demographics may assist to identify, is this really the best service of the communities? So, it's something that you may consider and look at starting new clubs or another club in the same town. And you can see the cluster in the middle around Canberra, Queanbeyan, there's some variation there, and again over in Wagga. But it's not until you get up towards Forbes, Bathurst, Orange that you see more morning clubs. I don't know what this one is here, just north of Nowra. But there's very few morning clubs. I'm trying to get this to go forward again. There it is there. I wrote this article on demographics back in November 2020, and it was in Rotary on the Move. And I concentrated in that on the behaviour patterns of the various age demographics and the expectation of life of various generations are vastly different. And that's where you may need to look at a new club that does accommodate those needs. Clubs that meet the people's needs will work better than clubs that expect the members to fit their traditions. I expected some feedback from this one here because I put in, I had the traditionalists, which is 1927 to 46, the baby boomers, my age group, 46 to 64, Gen X, and then the millennials. I put in quite a couple of challenging comments there, which I thought I might have got a bit of kickback on, but I didn't. And my closing sentence was, those who put barriers up are left with the challenge of managing their own future. And that to me is a reality. Now, the sources that you can use to access demographics is fairly easy. Most people would probably know of the Australian Bureau of Statistics. That's the first one I have up on the top of the screen slide there. And the ABS collate all the census data into usable information. But if you've ever been into it, you have to do a lot of analytical work. And there's other organisations out there that do this all for you. And it just depends whether your council region subscribes to them. And this one here, this .id community, just an amazing resource. And you can see on their tabs there, they do community profiles, social atlas, population forecast, economic profile, and a housing monitor. And honestly, you could go into your region, into your council area, and spend many, 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 many hours there to try and work out what's the best fit for your area. And then, or you can go straight into a council area. Some councils have a link there. Orange City Council, for example, they have an economic forecast link there. And interestingly enough, the reason I picked on Orange Council because they don't subscribe to ID Community, and they have a booklet there of it's a lot of pages and a lot of work for anyone to try and go through it and get any use out of it. But you can go into some of the other councils, they link back to ID Community. My own council, Maitland Council, one of the biggest cities in New South Wales, they don't subscribe to ID Community. They subscribe to another one, which is nowhere near as good as ID Community, but possibly it was done for economic reasons. What can you access from statistics? But this chart speaks for itself. They're the primary areas that you'll see in there. But of interest is you can see, with the people and population, the age, the ethnicity. That's very important because you cannot get a cause-based club on particular religions. And if you find you have a high rate of Indians in your area, for them to be asked to join Rotary is a great honour, and never ever bypass that nationality. But you can see the business types that are there, whether you're attracting professional people or blue collar workers. That all comes in the employment and the unemployment. You can find people with disabilities, the qualifications of those people. That even comes up with your volunteer hours, and most of these, as you know, you fill these all out on the census forms, and and then you can go into family and community. And one we used to use in the police a lot was the CIPHER rating, which is a socioeconomic index, and it showed whether an area was a poorer area or an affluent area. And it was quite interesting to see there the difference in crime in those sorts of areas. So what I've done, I've just done a snapshot of 4 towns here, 4 cities or towns in District 9705. And because, as I said earlier, the .id community, it provides so much data. All I could do was a little. I've done a different thing on each town just to show you some of the variety. But you can see the population, how many businesses they've got there. The population in 2021 was 34,952, and in 2036 they're forecasting 38,000. The age structure, you can go down there and you can see the red line is actually Bega, and the grey line is regional New South Wales as a percentage, and you can see that basically the 35 up to about 69 is your largest representative of your ages. So again, that's an area you can start targeting. And the migration of people who are coming in by age group, it's your 55 to 64 year old people who are moving into Bega. That's your biggest proportion of people. So again, you've got new people coming into a town. Perhaps they can be attracted to a club, or they may even be Rotarians moving in. Who knows? But Bega Valley Shire industry statistics identify the industry sectors where they work, and more Bega Valley Shire residents work in healthcare and social assistance than any other district in Bega. That's not up on that screenshot, but that's just some of the other information that's available there. And then again, this is all information off the IDs area. It's just the variations that I've thrown in there that you can see. Griffith City vocational qualifications are lower than regional New South Wales, but the employment levels are higher than the state average, and labouring type jobs are the most prevalent in Griffith. So it indicates there that you're dealing with hard-working blue-collar community. So you structure your Rotary Club around them. And then you have to have a look at what working hours. A morning club may not suit them if they're 7 a.m. workers or whatever it may be. So you may have to go to an afternoon meeting if you're going to put a new club there, or even a weekend one. Very few clubs in Australia have Friday or Saturday or Sunday Rotary clubs, but they do exist in the world. And then we again another variation here from Queanbeyan. If you go to Queanbeyan, it just has more professionals than any other occupation. But what's interesting is 20.7% of the population of Queanbeyan reported that they'd done some voluntary work. 20.7% of the population. We need to have a look at what the population is there. And, in 2021, if I go down the bottom here, it looks as though it's over 60,000 people. Imagine if you had 20% of those, or even if you had 2% of that population engaged in Rotary in Queanbeyan, you'd have some massive clubs. And, you see that that Coke bottle shape one up on the top left-hand corner, the age-sex pyramid. It shows you there again the number of people in that age group compared to regional New South Wales, and you can see again that that 40 up to 60 age group, there's more males. And the females are very prevalent in that 25 up to 50 age group. There's more females in Queanbeyan than the rest of the area. So it's that's as I said, it's just some of the snapshots that you can get out of these statistics. For me to have actually done anything on each of these cities to drill down to them, I would have had to spend lots and lots of hours just doing one particular city. But these resources are there for you to use. And then we go into poor old Orange. Orange don't subscribe to any of these. So you have to go into the ABS stats, and that's the sort of thing that you get there that you can see on the screen right now. So if you're in Orange and you're looking at, if you have a membership chair there or a club person looking at starting a new club, you have to sit down, you have to do a lot of the homework and work out exactly yourself, what may be the best target area for you. They've got a population of 60,000 people. Back in 2019, there's 29,000 males and nearly 31,000 females. So, and the median age range of males was 37, females 38, and of all people 38. So, you'd have a strong presence there in those 35 to 50 age bracket to look at membership there. And then you can go down and look in the estimated resident population. You can see the ages that are growing. But it's, as I said, Orange, you have to do a lot of analytical work. It was quite disappointing to go on there and find out that the only source was ABS. And as soon as I went back to their council profile, it sent me to a very complicated paperwork, which was just purely ABS stats. So it would require a lot of work to do something there with those guys. But what next? As I said, the demographics are available through the ABS and like groups, and they identify certain traits and characteristics of the people in the region. And from that, you can determine if Rotary is a good fit in that area and progress on to building the type of club that the members and community can make work best in their community. And it comes down to those green ones on the bottom, what type of club do you want? Where, when, and how often will they meet? What's the ideal structure of the club? And the orange one, before it drops down, what can the club offer the community and members? It comes back to, could be a cause-based club, which we've spoken about. It could be the members want a club at a different time or a different style of a club, and they're all things that you really need to consider in doing your planning. And as I said earlier, the demographics are just another tool you can use in your planning to research and decide whether what we are offering is the best service to an area, or imposing the questions, are we even targeting the right age or ethnic group? Because if you just go out and go bang, you come up with this great idea, we're starting a new club, and you don't do any planning and homework, you'll probably be doomed for failure. But if you've got that plan structured and you're targeting the right people, I think you'll be on the money. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Brian. Oh my goodness. Thanks for showing up orange. Not sure about that. So my little team back in Orange, we've got a bit of hard work to do by the look of it.
Yeah. My Maitland's just as bad.
Oh, gee. But I think I came away from that with a couple of key things. At the beginning, we talked about connecting with the community. You're talking about meeting the community needs, what works for the community. It keeps coming back to the community that we've got. So we need to get our information about our community, isn't it? That to me is what's coming through very, very clearly. Thank you, Brian. Once again, you all know Brian now. He is available for us to pick his brains and to use him because he has a wealth of knowledge and experience. My last speaker this afternoon is going to be one from my very own club, but what we've set up here in Orange is the combined Rotary Clubs of Orange. It's not just Daybreak trying to do this in Orange. We've established a couple of other people from other clubs who are keen to be involved. So we're calling it the Combined Clubs of Orange, not just Daybreak. So Graeme Fleming, can I get you to unmute, because you're going to be the spokesperson for the club and for that combined group of Rotary clubs here in Orange. We started this, Graeme. What are we going to do?
Mary, thanks for making me the spokesman to start with.
I know, I knew you'd love it.
She does this all the time, folks. Look, as Mary said, we're looking for a combined Rotary Club approach here in Orange, and I've got to say I'm pretty excited about the opportunities that are out there. And also pretty excited after hearing our speakers today, Mary. I think we've got some more ideas to think about. We've started to sort of do a little bit of homework about where we're at, and we're basically working on some key principles. The first one is we don't have a set model, which is backs up what the speakers have been saying about today. We want to start a new style of club. We don't want to start a traditional Rotary club, and certainly there's no set format. And I think with what we need to have in this day and age is flexibility, which all the speakers have said before. But we're very keen that if we are going to start something, we start with sound foundations. And those foundations are going to be based on Rotary principles. Our club, the Daybreak Club, has had some good experiences in the past. We started the first associates program in the world over 16 years ago, and that ran quite well for a while. We had over 20-odd members, and that went really, really well. They raised over $250,000 for various projects. We've still got 3 of those left, 3 associates. And we've also started in the past a young professionals program as well. But that's only part of the ideas that we're actually looking at in our club here, for our 3 clubs here, sorry. We've discussed all sorts of types so far, including those based around education. We've got Charles Sturt University here, also quite a strong TAFE presence, and quite some good high schools, both private and public schools. We've discussed the idea of an all nations or international club, an environment club, children and youth, a networking club, and a young professionals club. So there's some of the ideas we're tossing around, but based on what Brian said, we've got a little bit more work to do, Brian. So I really appreciate your comments today. I guess one of the things that we need to do at the start, which we are going to do, is actually get some focus groups together and actually find out what they want, not what we think as Rotarians is going to work. We need to find out what the actual people really are on about. And an important part of that is listening. Too often people are told rather than listened to. So if we can listen to what people have got to say, we think we're off to a good start with it. And I think also the appropriate language and messaging is really important. Like it or not, Rotary has got in some sections of the community, a stale image, and we certainly want to try and break that. And we also see Rotary as the vehicle as to what we want to try and do. We're trying to say to people, look, there can be all sorts of vehicles. What sort of vehicle do you want to take on board? But we've got Rotary vehicles that can do that. And the comments that was made earlier on about domestic violence and koalas and those sorts of things, Rotary is the vehicle for those particular organisations. Obviously, in our strategy, we get to interview as many people as we possibly can, and also try and have a proper strategy in place, a proper plan in place to where we go. But it's also important that we learn from the new style Rotary clubs that are actually being created, what they're actually doing. And I was really pleased, Barbara, the resources that you've got available there. I'm probably just an average Rotarian, haven't looked at those things too much. So you've opened up my eyes today, and I'm sure a lot of eyes for other people are actually listening in too. So I think that's been very beneficial. So that's sort of where we're at. It's going to be exciting. We've got a great team from the 3 clubs that are actually involved with it. A lot of enthusiasm, and knowing the people that are involved from the 3 clubs, we're not used to failing. So we will be successful, I think, as we roll on. But I think the key thing is we've got to be open to what fits our community. No set model, a new style of club. I'm using the term new Rotary, but that's probably the wrong thing to say. And we've got no set format. So I guess it's a matter of watch this space. But I'm fairly confident and very excited that as things roll on, you'll see some things happen here in Orange. Mary, you may want to add some comments too, because you've been a pain in the backside with all this. So what do you think about it?
It's for getting the right people in the right places at the right time. And I think we've managed to do that in Orange, because we've got Sue Patterson and Denise Martin on board as well. And we've got Lynette Bullen is here, and our team is on board. So I think that's pretty exciting. I'm glad you mentioned, Graeme, that you weren't aware of a lot of the resources that are around. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do for people today. And I've got my co-chair, Judy Ford, the other membership chair. She's here with me. And we know what's around for membership. We've got Kero. He's an amazing wealth of knowledge. He's got all these interviews that you can listen to for people who've done this before. We've got Adrian. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's just wonderful in the knowledge that he has. Brian, with his statistics and his knowledge of statistics and data and how we should use data. So we've got these resources, and so we can't do it on our own, Graeme. And I think I mentioned that to the team. There's other people we can rely on. It's been going on for a while now, so let's use what's already out there. So that's what we want to do. Thanks, everyone. I'm aware of the time. I hope that we've given you a lot to think about this afternoon. I'd like to thank personally Leo Farrelly, who's our district governor. He's been supportive in everything that Judy and I have been doing in that membership space here in District 9705. So once again, Leo, thank you for your support. Kero, thank you for being the membership voice, and it's been great setting up this connection with Membership Voice and District 9705. We couldn't have done it without you. Once again, Adrian, thank you for your wisdom. You've been around a while. You've got a lot in your head. You know what's happening. Barbara, the information that you have, I really hope that people reach out to you now, because there's so much stuff that you have that we can call upon. And Brian, your knowledge of statistics and how to use statistics. Thank you. And finally, Graeme and the team back in Orange. I don't know how we're going to do this, guys, but I'm sure we're going to do it somehow or other, and I'm sure we'll put it together. So thanks, everyone. It's been great to see you all here. There are so many faces that I know, and it's wonderful that you all came on. So thank you. We're about 5 minutes over time. So once again, thanks, everyone. I noticed there were a couple of questions there, but also Barbara has, I don't know whether you put it up, Barbara, the club types, the formats and the models. I've got that in front of me here. It talks about the it didn't come up very well. The different club types and the models, that's on all the resources that Barbara has as well. I use it all the time. I get to understand these types of things. So that's enough for us this afternoon. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kero, for coming on board from all the way over the other side of almost the planet. We'll get to see you one of these days. Not sure when. But anyway, thanks, everyone.